Right, next, we'll move on to the Major League Baseball and talk a little bit of why Major League Baseball just can't. This right here is the picture that sums up my reaction every time I read any news from Major League Baseball about them trying to run Major League Baseball. Is they just don't know how. They don't know how to do it. I don't know how it happened or how we got here, but you
They
just
did give us the drawing a picture of Mike Trout every day until the NBA lockout is over, though. I don't know if you followed that,
yeah, I know,
but
but
that's something. They created as a
listen,
reaction.
like anybody that wants to know what I'm talking about with the Major League Baseball, with why they're terrible at running organizations, they want they there was a quote that I read to Dylan before the podcast that is they believe that training camp players shouldn't get paid in the training camp because the training camp is more about them getting in the potential that it gets them, less about the players, or about the clubs. They don't get as much benefit as the players do, in that the clubs have to pay for the training though still. And I'm like, okay,
Mm,
but here's my counter argument is maybe you want your players, who are the products that you're trying to sell every year, to be better, and that training camp would help them do that. So like maybe you do pay the players to go to training camp. Like the Major League Baseball just does so many dumb things. So I just go like, I don't, I like,
the ultimate boomer league, if there was one more.
God, they're so bad. They're so terrible. Like me and you could pick me and you, without knowing anything about running a freaking sport, could walk into that office and probably run it better than it is being run right now.
Yeah.
And that's sad because there's just so many decisions marketing wise, and then just rule changes, and overall just, I mean, up till like what, 3 years ago, they didn't have replay. How do you not have replay? How do you not have
What does
replay?
that even mean? Like they didn't have the TV on?
No, they did not have, like, they didn't have, like, you couldn't go to a replay and challenge a call.
Oh yeah, that's
Like,
right.
that's new.
I forgot that was supposed to be a new thing.
Yeah, like that was a new thing. Like, oh, I can challenge a call because we have replay of it, and we can go to replay and see if the call's right.
Yeah.
Like, we should have been doing that anyways. Why is this now a thing that we're going to add into the game to see? And it's like, and then I hate the old, what part of the problem too is, it's the oldies, the old baseball fans that are like, you can't change the rules. The game is, and I'm like, listen, shut up. It was like, you know, like back, like the NBA, there's a reason why back in the day the NBA didn't have a 3-point line, and now we do. Like they've realized that there's better things you can do to the game to make it better, and it changes good. And here we are with the Major League Baseball, and they don't want to change. Same with like the stupid, like, unwritten rules of baseball. And Fernando Tatis Jr. was getting criticized for hitting a grand slam when his team was up 8-0, or it was up 8 runs, and that's against the unwritten rules of baseball. You shouldn't be like that. And it's like, I'm sorry, what is he not supposed to swing the bat at the ball like you do in baseball? Like, just, that's what I mean. You want to see that rant? Go to YouTube and you'll find my rant on that.
Yeah.
But the point is baseball just doesn't know how to run anything baseball wise, and here we are. Just a quick little update though on it. Two big things that I wanted to highlight about the negotiations that are currently happening. If you want to call them negotiations, I don't really know what you call them. Major League Baseball Players Association is seeking more money for players early in their careers through a higher minimum salary and earlier arbitration eligibility. What that means is that players would be able to sign bigger contracts under arbitration earlier than they currently are, which it's kind of wild. If you go and look at the players and the way that the contracts are set up, they can't like sign big contracts until a few years in, and yada yada yada. It's kind of weird, the whole thing. But also I do agree with them getting players. They're not even trying to get players more money overall. They're trying to get players that are younger in their career more money, which is nicer because they do get paid very little money earlier in their career. Hence why they then go for massive contracts after, because they're really, really trying to get the money that they deserve. And it's interesting. I'm always a person that sides with players on money things, because, like, do I think that every NBA player should get paid $100 million? No. But like, like, do you know how much money LeBron makes the NBA every year? LeBron should be paid like 50 million a year. I'm totally fine with him getting paid a ridiculous amount of money every year. You know, And that's the other thing too that I always argue. Like players, like Mahomes gets paid $500 million over 10 years. Yeah, that's a wild contract. That's massive and it's crazy to think about. But my counter argument goes, okay, well the NFL came out with that they're going to be making over $500 billion over the next 10 years. So $500 million over the next 10 years for their best player and the player that they're going to market for the next 10 years as the face of their league. I think $500 million is a drop in the hat for them compared to $500 billion that they're going to make.
Well, yeah,
So,
I mean, the Chiefs were happy to pay it, so that tells you that right there. That's considered a team-friendly contract, by the way. So, I mean, it is, like in terms of like
it is
facts.
the way that it's the way that it's the way that they set it up is really interesting. It's a certain percentage against the salary cap every year, and so obviously with the salary cap going up, and you never heard that, right? Did you know that?
It's confirmed, or
well, that's what the way that they set it up is that it's the same percentage against the cap every year, but the money goes up because the cap goes up, and like so it's like his contract gets paid out because he's not taking more money percentage wise, but it's the same percent, but there's more money available because money continues to increase. So that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, if we have to see his brother and girlfriend for 10 more years, though, yeah, I'm sure you will. I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
you will. This point they've been ingrained in him, which is really sad.
Yeah, I will say though that I feel like there's got to be a conversation where Mahomes sits down with them and goes, "Listen, guys, we need to calm down. We need to chill out the TikTok a little bit, chill out the celebration a little bit, calm it down."
Yeah,
because that needs to happen. But anyways, I'm always on the side of the players for money because the other argument I always make, because people always are like, "Well, how do you they're getting paid this much money?" Let's put it this way: you watch the Bears every single weekend. If Justin Fields gets paid $40 million a year, you break that down to how many million dollars he's getting paid per game, whatever it is. It's like $3 or $4 million per game. Guess what? When you go to watch a movie in the theaters for 2 hours and the main actor of that movie gets paid 20, 30 million for that movie and you entertain for 2 to 3 hours, well, guess what? Justin Fields entertains you for 3 hours every single Sunday for 16 weeks of the year. And so that's where I go like, well, you're getting the entertainment value. So like, why, don't complain. Like, like if you're upset about how much he's getting paid to entertain you for 3.5 hours for 16 weeks, well, 17 weeks now, then complain about how much actors are getting paid for the 2.5 hours that you watch the one movie that they put out,
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm like, that's the thinking that you have to realize.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the normal like bar conversation or whatever is just like, oh my god, they get paid so much money, but then it's like, yeah, but also if you do the math on what they're getting paid out, I mean,
and how much the league's making.
Yeah, I mean, literally just what the league's making and how they help them get there. It's pretty much right there. Yes, it's a ridiculous amount of money, and yes, like, oh, maybe players shouldn't be paid that much, like. But they do, and they will, and that's just the way it is, and there's a reason why, and you can look at it for the exact same reasons you just said. So that comes up a lot. It's just, if someone usually brings that up, it's kind of fruitless at that point. I don't think you're ever going to get them on your side. They've kind of decided at that point.
It's just people need to realize that, like, for example, I just said Patrick Mahomes is getting paid $500 million over 10 years. Well, the NFL is making $500 billion over the next 10 years. That is 0.001. That's the decimal percentage, or that's the percentage is 0.1%. Mahomes, the face of the entire league, the guy that they're going to market for the next 10 years to make that 500 billion, it makes 1.1% of the money that they're going to make.
Yeah.
So that's where I go like that right there's your prime perfect example. You think his contract's ridiculously high. Well, guess what? He's 0.1% of what they're going to make, and he's the guy that's going to make them that money. He's not the only guy that's going to make them the money, but he's a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
He's definitely worth 0.1% more. Or more than that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, Major League Baseball doesn't know what they're doing. The other big thing that they got, just to remind everybody, is they also got a universal DH was agreed upon.
Really?
This is one of those where I go, I am going to be the old guy here and go, I don't like that. The only reason why I don't like it is because like DH is just, it's a thing that they wanted to do to get more, points, more runs, better, get a better hitter in there. It opens up a position and for an extra hitter to come in.
Sure.
I like not having a DH because there's like baseball, a lot of baseball is like it's a chess game, is what everybody says, and it's a mind game. It's decisions and it's little things that you do. Like there was one game that I referenced where uh, Jason Hayward for the Cubs caught a ball, and instead of the runner advancing, tagging up and advancing, he did it. He stayed. And the reason why he stayed is because just Jason Hayward has a really great arm and could throw him out potentially.
Right.
The guy stayed at first. Well, then guess what? The next play happened. It was a fly out. It was a deep fly out. Player advanced to second. The next play was a ground out. Player advanced to third. And then the next play after that was a deep fly out. And so that right there was 3 outs. The guy was stranded on third. Well, if that guy goes to second, guess what? On that deep fly out that he went to second in the first place on, he would have been at third. And then that previous ground out, he might have been home. So it's one of those where, and then guess what? The Cubs won by 1 run. And it's like right there, just because Jason Hayward can throw the ball, well, and throw him out, they won that game. Because otherwise that could have been an extra run for the other team. Game would have been tied and it wouldn't have ended. So that's where I go. It's a decision. There's so many little moments like that in baseball that happen all the time, and it's decisions that are made, and it's a chess game. And the reason why the DH is a thing that takes away pieces of that chess game is because, say you have your pitcher's pitched 7 spectacular innings, but he's getting up there in pitch count, has like 100 pitches. Usually guys want to take him out. Well, here's the thing. If your pitcher's doing really well, he's throwing, super well, he's got maybe a shutout game, 1 or 2 outs. Well, you also haven't been able to score any runs this game, so it's 0-0. He's coming up third. Maybe you want to, your first guy gets on, your second guy gets on, now you have 2 runners on. Maybe you want to get a pinch hitter in there to help get one of those runners at home so that way you can take the lead, but then you lose your pitcher if you pinch hit.
Yeah.
But if you put your pitcher out there, more than likely he's going to get either struck out or it's going to be an out or even maybe a ground out that leads to a double play. So that's where you go, like, that's a decision you have to make, and you have to live with whatever you decide in that. So that's why I just that.
So does it make it easier overall for teams, and that's like less interesting, basically?
Yeah, because now if you have a DH, that whole scenario I just gave you isn't a factor, because then you go, okay, well, the DH, is a good hitter because he's a DH, and so now I don't have to worry about, oh, well, should I sub out my pitcher even though he's doing super well and I want to keep him in, maybe he's getting up there in pitch count. Maybe I take him out, but he is pitching super well and he's shutting him out. That's the mindset you have to go into with that. Whereas now with the DH, you just go, well, he's a good hitter. I don't really care.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I can see that.
And if DH, you can pinch hit for him, and you can have a guy on your bench pinch hit for him. And if the guy's not a great fielder, or like, let's say he's a catcher or something like that, and you're not going to want him to come in and play the field or something, you can have him pinch hit for the DH if he's going to be the better hitter in that scenario, and you're not going to feel bad about it because the DHs don't play the field. So like, he's not going to see the field, so you can throw him out there. So it's just like, there's things like that make it easier. And that's why I'm not a huge fan of the DH being now a universal thing.
Yeah. And so when does that actually go into effect?
I don't know if it's this year. I think it's coming. It would be I think it's a couple of years down the road, but still, it's a thing that apparently was one of the things they finally came to agreement upon. So
that was one of them that they came in agreement upon? Okay.
Major League Baseball is Major League Baseball, dude. They just
moving
don't know
at snail's pace, I guess.
Yeah.
What else is new?
So